Yeah, I'll be talking so much about the importance of feeding right. This is going to be a very long video, and once you join in, I would love you to have a lot of patience because you're going to be learning so much from one of the basic needs of human, which is food. And I'd love you to stick with me on this live stream, get across this video because I'm going to be uploading it after the live stream. I'm going to be uploading it. I'm going to be highlighting so much the importance of food that people usually neglect. And one of the reasons why I am creating this, a lot of people overlook the importance of feeding right. Like, they don't eat adequately, you know, how to eat and even what to eat, and for you to understand the importance of feeding right. And you cannot feed right if you don't know how to plan your meal. Yes, you cannot actually feed right if you do not know how to plan your meal. If you are not able to plan an adequate all that is required of you to make your meal. This video, yes, I'm making this video because people just tend to eat like name is available at that point. So that is why I'm making this video. I hope that you guys stick with me because it's going to be quite a very long video, and I'm not always in live. I'm not always used to going live stream because I'm a nursing mother. I have a baby. Yes, I have a baby I'm taking care of, and it's being a nursing mother is not actually all that easy, especially when you don't have somebody assisting you apart from you and your husband. So, but it's actually fun for me. It's actually fun for me, I must tell you. It's actually fun. So, before we get started, let me get water. Let me drink some water. I'll be right back. Yeah, I'm back. So, let's get started. One thing about feeding right is that food, as in whatever we ingest, like I've found out that most of these nutritional related diseases are highly linked with what we eat over time, what we have consumed over time. That's to say that, for example, you were introduced to a particular feeding pattern when you were growing up, and you incorporated that into your meal even when you travel to different places in the world, and you found out that this pattern has become your culture, has become the way you eat. And over time, you grew up and diagnosed of one condition, you'll find out that if you do your research very well, you'll find out that what you have been eating, what you have been used to, what you've been feeding your system for a very long time, actually played a lot of role in the manifestation of that nutritional related diseases that you were diagnosed of. Yes. I just want to use an example of high blood pressure. Yes, hypertension. Let me use that as an example, which is highly linked to high fat intake and high sodium intake. Now, this thing doesn't just occur. It doesn't just magically occur. It's a prolonged process. It's something that has occurred, like that has been that progressively, reoccurred during your life. And it didn't just like I said, it's not a magical stuff. It's not something that just manifested that way. It's something that progressed over time, and it has to do with something you've been eating over time, your feeding habits over time, And another example is cancer. Like we have so many forms of cancer. We have varieties of cancer, you get, and some cancers are usually linked to sugar intake, you get, sugar intake and so many other, you know carcinogenic substances. What do I mean by carcinogenic substances? Carcinogenic substances, in the sense, are those substances that when you ingest them or when you come in contact with them, they are likely to prone you or to expose you to cancer. And these carcinogenic substances are so many, like they are so many. So this is another example of what you have eaten or what you have come in contact with over time can expose you to cancer. And that is why it is very, very important to feed right. Yes, it's very, very important to feed right. This is one of the examples to have a background knowledge of what it means by feeding right, or what you should be able to do to feed right. That is another example. That is another, another challenge. You don't even know what to do or how to go about it in order for you to feed. And that is, I'm going to be giving you a little means of able to feed right, and why I go on giving you the importance of feeding right. Dispose you to you are the one making the meal, or you in one way or the other you contribute to making the meal of more than not just you, but people out there or probably within the family. One of the things you should check out for is those foods that will expose one to danger. That is number one. The second one is safety, food safety. How you'll be able to know if these foods are contaminated. What are you likely to do that can affect the safety of this meal? Safety means if this meal is contaminated, if this meal has a lot of microorganisms, or probably this meal has been exposed to an environment that is so unconducive. That is another reason. Another reason is another way to avoid another way to avoid food, that can expose personal hygiene. How is the person's personal hygiene? Is it likely to, use a dirty hand, a contaminated hands over a clean food, over a cooked food, over a freshly made food? Now, what about the environment, the place, things the person should be able to check? What about the dishes, the plates for serving this food? These are the things you should check, because in Africa, most of the food poisoning that people experience is usually linked to typhoid. Yes, salmonella typhi. Salmonella typhi is a microorganism to have what we call typhoid fever. Typhoid, yes. And we also have various other food contaminations, such as Clostridium botulinum. This is an example of another microorganism. We also have E. coli, and we have so many microorganisms that can cause food poisoning. So these are some of the examples of things one should look. Another example is how is that food produced? Yes. What does that food contain? So, in order for you to understand the importance of feeding right, you should be able to know if this food is nutrient dense or not. Because you might just be eating foods that are packed, that are loaded with calories, and that will provide you with bad health. Because when you eat One of the, defining malnutrition. Malnutrition has two forms. It's either it is overnutrition or it is under what nutrition. Under the overnutrition occurs as a result of consumption of one or more dietary components. Probably you have eaten one particular dietary component excessively more than the others. And what about undernutrition? Undernutrition can manifest in many ways. It can manifest as nutritional related diseases and is as a result of when one is lacking, when one has not been able to consume one or more dietary components for a long period. For example, and I noticed that people neglect this a lot. Micronutrient deficiency. I see lots of women out there, I see lots of children out there that still suffer goiter, and I still wonder, goiter is like a war disease. It's like an old form of disease, old form of nutritional related diseases. And I don't know, I usually see women that have that goiter, and I begin to wonder why. This is an example. When you do not feed right, when you are not intentional to what you eat, how you eat, that is where you find such conditions. Goiter, that is as a result of inadequate intake of iodine. Inadequate intake of iodine, and is highly neglected in the world today, because some people, you might just be using your salts when you are eating. You don't even check the label, you don't even check if these salts is have some amount of iodine in them. And that's why I usually stress about reading the food label. A lot of people don't read the food labels. When you buy food, it is very important to read the food labels. When you're able to read the food labels, you'll be able to know what are the nutrients that have been incorporated in this food products. Then you will not be justified. You will not say, oh, I am very, very, very certain that this food I'm eating has a lot of nutrients. So another micronutrient deficiency that people are highly exposed to these days is that of vitamin D. Yes, vitamin D and calcium, and that is why when one is getting older, it is required you check out foods that are rich in calcium, because you will see so many older people that have osteomalacia, and it's usually seen when you see an older person that the back is already bending, a bended back, bended bone. When your bone is already bended, it is an example of osteomalacia. And when your diet is lacking in calcium, that is when this can actually occur. And this, like I said, this is a progressive thing. And that's why they call micronutrients a double body, a hidden hunger. It is called hidden hunger because you don't get to know, you don't get to find out so early. It takes a longer period of time, and it creeps in quite slowly on individuals that have it. When you are lacking in one or two micronutrients, it can manifest slowly. And one bad thing I don't feel comfortable about micronutrient deficiency is that it doesn't really have most of this micronutrient deficiency cause a life disorder, defects that cannot be managed over time. It can't be easily managed. So that is one of the reason. So right now I would like to take a little break. Yeah, I would like to take a little break and check on my baby, and I'll be back to give you guys another second reasons why you should feed right, and the importance of feeding very well, the importance of feeding right. Are you playing? You're making a video, live video. Let me check the time. It's like I'm going to feed you. So guys, I'm not going to be wasting much of your time. Yeah, so making this video is actually fun for me because it's this idea came into my head and I decided to kind of share it. So that's why I'm sharing this to you guys. A lot of people neglect what they eat. A lot of people don't look at it. It's like, and I used to tell myself that nutrition is like, you know, it's like work. Yes, I would love to see it like work. When you want to do a particular work, you plan on it, on how to make it to be efficient, on how to do that work efficiently well, right? That is exactly how nutrition is. When you do not plan your meal well, you might end up, you know, you might end up feeding wrongly, feeding, following a bad feeding road, or will I say path. Yes, and that is why I I usually advocate so much. I usually advocate so much about feeding right. Yes. So another reason why I talk about feeding right is because some people usually feel that food poisoning is only intentional. Yes, food poisoning can be unintentional. What do I mean by unintentional? Whereby you go on planning a meal or making a meal that you didn't even budget for, you didn't even plan. And also, when you are doing something, when you are planning, when you are making a meal ignorantly, not knowing whether how to make that meal effectively, and not knowing the risk factors that can expose you to danger, and not knowing the risk factors that are likely to make you come in contact with one micronutrient or the other during food preparation. So that is why being intentional when you are preparing your food, just like intentional doing your job, you know, that is why it is also is very, very important. Playing. Are you playing? Playing. So guys, another importance of feeding right is that it aids in disease recovery. You are sick. When you are sick and you feed right, it will help you live a happy life, because when you are feeding right, it will help combat so many other infectious diseases, and it will aid in fast disease recovery. Yes, you will be able to recover very, very fast, and you'll be able to live happily. Yes, because so many people that have many diverse chronic related diseases better. You find out that they live better, and it will help in your medications. Feed right, it will aid, it will help facilitate the process of recovery. So feeding right is very, very, very important. It is very, very important to feed right. And feeding right doesn't just end about the kind of food you eat. It doesn't just start from about the kind of food you eat. Feeding right also goes a long way. Not being able to skip your meal. Funny enough, do you know that people don't know that skipping of meal is not easy. When you skip meal, when you have portion, yes, your portion size might end because you have starved your cells. You have starved your fat cells. That's especially for those that are trying to control their weights, especially those that are trying, those people that are trying to manage their weights. You will find out that your fat cells are already starving, and if you're not careful, you will eat triple of the normal size you usually eat. Though it is very important that even if you're eating that much, you should incorporate fiber rich fruits. When you incorporate fiber rich fruits, it will make you to reduce the calorie intake. It will help reduce the size of the food you eat if you love to eat so much. Secondly, I've talked about when, right? Now, what do you eat? Some people might just think that when you eat, it just ends there. What about what you eat? And what about how you eat the food? How you eat the food? I have talked about when. So it is not so healthy to skip your meal. It is not healthy skipping your meal, you know. It's not healthy skipping your meal. So that is why I usually advocate about people that skip their meal. It is not healthy to skip your meal. In as much as that starvation at some level have a role to play in helping manage weight. That is when you are fasting. You know, when you are fasting is a total different game altogether. When you are fasting, it's totally different. But if you are not fasting and you just decide to keep skipping meal, I have observed one thing, that most people that skip meal, they usually have nutritional related diseases or the other. Yes, when you skip your meal anyhow, when you just so so I would like to use some feature here. Okay, network. Okay, I think it's time for. So guys, as you can see, there are countless reasons, there are countless importance of feeding right. When it comes to that of children, when it comes to that of kids, if you do not feed your kids well, they won't grow well. Whatever you give is exactly what you're going to get. Whatever you plant is exactly what you're going to reap. So that is the same way it comes to feeding. And when you do not feed your child well, your child will have what we call attention deficit. They have what we call attention deficit. The attention span will be very, very low because they are starving. They're not being fed well. Also, they're likely to be exposed to so many forms of nutritional related diseases, malnutrition generally. And apart from that, they won't grow well, like I've said. They won't function well. Then also, what about feeding in pregnancy? When a pregnant woman doesn't feed well, it will affect her and the developing fetus, as well as lactating mothers. If you're a lactating mother and you do not feed well, you won't be able to produce enough breast milk to feed your baby. Yes. And you will not even be able to sustain yourself or get enough energy to perform some work. And you know, your body is also performing some metabolic functions and all that, which they need energy to function. And what about an adult man? When you are already an adult, you still need food. Food is not just only for growth. Food is for you to survive, you need food. For you to live, you need food. And a lot of people don't put their mind in that. They don't usually pay attention to what they eat. They just feel that it's just better for you to just eat anything that is available to you. And also in this video, I also want to lay a little emphasis on about feeding for those that usually feel that you have to have you have to have enough money for you to feed right. That doesn't work that way. Whether you are buoyant enough, you are you still have the right to feed well. You still have the right to feed adequately. There are so many affordable foods, so many nutrient dense affordable foods out there, especially your veggies, that can help you, that can help garnish your meal and increase its nutrient density. Yes, when you incorporate so many available foods that you have, and that's why I advocate that you eat foods that are in season. When you eat foods that are in season, you know what you'll be gaining. You will not just be getting enough of vitamins and minerals. You will be gaining you will be saving because it is usually affordable. Foods that are in season are highly affordable at that time because they are in season, and especially the perishable ones, those perishable ones, they tend to be very, very affordable because if they are not sold, and it's not be able to retain all, and that is why it is very, very important to you know so when you take that as an advantage, it will help you a lot. You'll be saving costs, the cost of of buying it when it is not in season, when it has. So when you buy them, you can even store them. Yes, you can store them, you can keep them in a you can store them for a longer period of time, and you can also eat them when you want to. You can eat them anytime you want to. You can use them to prepare varieties of foods. I don't know where you are watching from. I don't know whether the kinds of foods that are in season there, but in every part of the world that we're living in, there are different foods that come out at specific time, at specific period of time, seasons, you can make use of that. You can leverage on that. You can take advantage of that because help, and they help. Like there was this research I had some time ago about some certain kind of people that were not able to consume fresh tomatoes for a able to consume fresh tomatoes, and you know what happened? They lacked lycopene. They lacked lycopene. Lycopene is actually a so it's actually lycopene that gives watermelon its natural color. And these phytochemicals plays a lot of role in fighting cancerous here, which are your carotene, lycopene. There's so many phytochemicals, and the major role that they play is that they help to fight against so many cancerous cells. They work hand are the vitamin A, C, and the vitamin E. Something when but when you're looking, afford them. Even if you feel you don't have the money, you can always what you eat. Yes, it has a lot because you have to have an efficient place and a well-functioning place way of storing that food. Yes, you have an excellent way of storing that food, and you can always research to find out ways you can store such perishable foods, those foods that are around your area, those foods that are around the environment that are in season. You can always find way to store them. So even if you feel you do not have money, there are so many affordable foods out there. There are so many natural vegetables. They might not like it. They might find that, so they might just say, I don't like how it tastes. I don't like but it's actually loaded with nutrients, but I don't like this food. I don't like it how it tastes. I don't like how it smells. I don't like the aroma coming from it. So this actually be a turn off, you know. But there are other foods that you can also take advantage of. You find them, appealing. And another one where you can make some, you can plant some, some few vegetables, some few fruits and vegetables that you love. Yes, you love it and is loaded with nutrients. That will go a long way. That will go a long way in helping you solve so many micronutrient deficiency diseases. That will help you. What we call hidden hunger. And this hidden hunger ranges it ranges in so many ways, like ways that you can't even think of. It just starts manifesting like that magically, and you just begin to wonder, how is it that I haven't been eating this? Or is it that this hasn't been part of my meal? This particular nutrient hasn't been part of my meal. And even in pregnancy, that's why in pregnancy we usually tell mothers that they have to actually eat. Yes, they also have to take supplements, folic acids. Yes, supplements, because you can't get enough of it from, you can't get enough of folates, and you can't get enough of iron time. Even after pregnancy, during the period of lactation, you still need some of these prescribed. That you shouldn't just go on your own way doing that. So that is why supplements are recommended. There are recommended amounts you should take if you're lactating mothers, even those with fertility problem. I'm going to make I'm going to make a video about fertility, and it's going to cover a whole lot. And that is why I'm saying this is one of the benefits you're going to be getting when you feed right. It also have a large role to play in your fertility. Yes, when you are infertile, you can correct it through feeding right. Yes, you can correct it through eating good food. You can correct it through eating specific amounts of foods that have specific nutrients in them. Yes, it is not just about medications. There are so many medications you are likely to take. If you do not feed right, it's going to affect you. That medications won't work. And apart from that medications not even being able to work effectively, it can lead to so many complications. Let me use diabetes as an example. When you do not modify your diet, yes, when you do not adjust to certain kinds of food that you've been eating over a long period of time, and probably you have been been on medications, and you are even the kind of person that go outside, over the counter medications. That is one of the reasons why some people who are diabetic, start developing some of the complications that comes with diabetes. Yes. And on this note, I would like to list some of these complications which people don't even know that usually occur as a result of being diabetic. An example is retinopathy. Retinopathy is blindness when you become, yes. Neuropathy is by the person's mobility. Another complication that is also seen in diabetes that people go on that people don't usually notice is nephropathy, when the person's kidney starts failing. Yes, when the person starts failing, this is one of the complications of diabetes people don't notice, and this has to do with a lot of the way you eat. When you are not intentional to feeding, when you don't know that there are things you should be able to eat, when you are not able to stick with your doctor's prescription, that could lead to complications. And there is this complication that people, and like I mentioned, neuropathy are so, that is why that is another reason why it is very important to feed right. Yes, it's very, very important to feed right. And if you do not feed right during these conditions, it will slow down your recovery, and it will also lead to these complications that I have actually mentioned. Infertility, like I said, is one of the things that most men overlook doing diabetes. They don't know that some of them don't know that these complications of diabetes, can come out as a result of not feeding right, can actually manifest because the person is not feeding right. And one of the ways you can actually adjust to the way you eat is by following the normal way you were asked to eat by your doctor, by your healthcare officer, or somebody that probably that has been giving you everything that you need in terms of health. Your physician, yes, that could be your nurse, the person nursing you. So when you eat foods that that tends to increase your chances of developing diabetes, or when you eat foods that tends to increase your chances of developing high blood pressure, when you eat foods that increases your chance of developing cancer, probably throat cancer, colon cancer, and all that, that is an example of when you're not feeding right. So therefore, when you feed right, you find out that some of these things can be easily tackled with. I'm advocating about feeding right, about being intentional to what, when, and how you eat. So that is actually my motto. And if you are on this my channel and you've not really connected with me, probably you've not asked me one or two questions, you are missing out, my dear. You are really missing out. You are really missing out. So that is all for now. On my next live stream, I will go on to make some adjustments. I'm just trying to learn some of those features, and all that. So in my next live stream, I would like to highlight more about feeding right. And I am also compiling a good content for you guys about fertility. Yes, about some certain foods you can take advantage of if you want to increase your fertility health and all that. Foods that have high nutrients, that have a lot of zinc in it, a lot of selenium in it, a lot of antioxidants in them that can help boost your fertility function and all that. So see you guys. Thank you for staying with me on this live stream. So right now I want to go and feed my baby. Yes, I want to go and feed my sweet baby.